Hey crafty friends, it's Joy here. Welcome back to my channel. I am so excited that you're here with me today. I have 3 cards for you using brand new products from Spellbinders. We're going to be doing some hot foiling, some dry embossing, and one of the cards I did both of those things together. So I'll show you how I did that, and let's get going on this project. Here is that 3D embossing folder. This is the Beautiful Butterflies 3D embossing folder, and the images are stunning. Then we have the Fluttering by Glimmer hot foil plate, and then the Essential Stylish ovals, and I love that there's so many, so getting the right size is so super easy. So I have trimmed down some colored cardstock, some fun spring colors to an A2 size panel. This one is Party Pink from the Stamp Market. Then I have Banana from Simon Says Stamp and Lime from Cardstock Warehouse. So my sandwich in my Platinum 6 is, and I'm using the universal plates here, is the base and then plate D. So it's a gray plate, it's quite a bit thicker, and that's how your sandwich works. I'm using the black Platinum 6. It does have pink plates, which is really fun, and that is an exclusive between scrapbook.com and Spellbinders, and you can only find it on scrapbook.com. Now I am trimming these down into strips, into 1/2-inch strips. I'm just using my paper trimmer to trim that out because I have 2 cards I'm going to make with these strips. One of the cards that I did originally, I actually had to redo because when you have embossing, you need to, if you're going to do any die cutting with your cardstock, you need to die cut first, then emboss, because especially with these 3Ds embossing folders, it's going to flatten your image a lot. You would still have some dimension, but hardly any. So I wasn't thinking that. I forgot about that actually when I was making my card. So I'll show you that one here in a little bit, but I had to redo that. For this card, I just had the idea of having some strips of this now embossed paper in different lengths coming down from the top to the bottom. And that's really kind of my card design. Then we're gonna add a sentiment and some beautiful hot foiled butterflies. So I'm just laying this out to kind of get an idea of how spaced I want them, how far down the cardstock I want them. So once I had that laid out, I actually took a picture with my phone so I could kind of remember where things were. And I am using adhesive strips from scrapbook.com to put these in place, and then I can trim off all of the excess. Now you do end up having a lot of these strips left over, so you could do this multiple times because these are not in order with each other because they weren't going to line up, if that makes sense. So you could make a lot of these cards super easy. Like this would be actually an easy way to do mass producing, especially with such an interesting concept. Even though it's super simple. Strips of paper, strips of colored paper is simple. And I love that it has dimension because you guys know I love dimension, so foam tape is awesome. But if you were going to do this mass producing, you wouldn't even have to do foam tape. You could just add adhesive to the back of this, or already add your paper to adhesive sheets, and then when you trim it out, you just peel off the backing and adhere it down. That would go even quicker. So I'm going to finish with my last strip there actually, making sure everything is straight, and then I can trim the excess off, and now we have this fun card panel. I love how it turned out, and I love these spring colors. This is the card I had to redo. So I have regular strips. They are not embossed. I am taping them together because I want them to have the image run through each color that matches, and I'll show you that in just a second. I took out one of those oval dies. I have a piece of white cardstock that's A2 sized. This oval fits. I'm going to tape it in place, and then I can run that through my die cut machine. And this is going to be the base for our card. So I wanted to do this first because now I need to line up my strips of paper here so I can die cut that out so it can fit on this oval. And again, I'm doing this first because I need to do the dry embossing with my embossing folder. I already did this once with those other strips that I cut. Then I ran it through the die cut machine, and I'm like, oh no, it flattened it. I totally forgot that that's what happens. I just wasn't even thinking, so I redid it this way. So I'm going to tape that in place, line up my oval die cut, run that through the die cut machine, and then that's just going to cut the strips of paper. And now they're going to fit the side of that oval. Now I can place this in my 3D embossing folder and run that through my die cut machine. Again, my sandwich is the base plate and plate D. And now our stripes are embossed and they won't get flat when I'm running it through to die cut the oval. I am going to add some adhesive to the back and line these up. I did take that mint tape off the back that I had adhered them together with, and now I can put them on individually. So I'm lining them up. The design is going to be cohesive through each of these colors, which I really love. And so that I can put aside. I'm kind of getting all the backgrounds done, and then we can put these cards together. This is the Fluttering by Glimmer hot foil plate. I am putting this on a diagonal. I am using some Prism Prism foil. And I did struggle with this, and I don't understand. I think it was the foil itself, weirdly, because I used the specialty Glimmer cardstock, which I don't really ever have an issue with, and I didn't have an issue when I used it for the butterflies and aura foil. So that's heated up. I'm running that through my die cut machine, and I have to do it again because not all of the images foiled, and I just was kind of stunned by it because, like I said, I don't usually have a problem, but I have about 2 butterflies that didn't foil great, so I'm keeping that in place. I'm adding a little bit more foil, ran it through again. I still had a couple little spots, but I was able to hide it with my sentiment. So again, I think it was the foil, weirdly, and I'm not even sure why that would be a thing, because again, I used the same plate, the same cardstock, and then I used aura foil, and they came out perfectly fine the first time. Here's where I made a mistake. I did the embossing before I did the die cutting, you guys. But look at how pretty that is. So you have your foiled background, and then you have your embossed background. Now, the reason why I did this is because I didn't do that other card first. I did that other card at the end because I didn't realize that I had flattened down the images until I started putting the cards together. So otherwise, I would have fixed it. So again, don't do your die cutting, do your foiling, your die cutting, then your dry embossing. Now I'm using the aura foil and the specialty Glimmer cardstock from Spellbinders. These are the butterflies that we are going to use the coordinating dies with because this foil plate has coordinating dies for these butterflies. So I'm using that same oval size, gonna put it in place and run it through my die cut machine again. Do this and then do your embossing. I did not redo this card because it wasn't the end of the world, but I would definitely do it in that order next time. Here's the coordinating dies that I can tape in place. I'm trying to really make sure I don't tape onto the foil itself because the tape, even if it's low tack tape, it can pull the adhesive off. Okay, in my MISTI, let's get our sentiments stamped. I am using sentiments from Simon Says Stamps, Tiny Words Birthday, and Stronger Together. So this one is from Stronger Together. It says, "Hello again, I've missed you. I've prepped it with a powder tool. I have my heat tool on and heating up. I inked it up with Versamark embossing ink, and I'm sprinkling on Lawn Fawn's gold embossing powder and then heating that until it's melted." Okay, so now we are going to do our next sentiment. I'm going to do a little one that we will trim out. This is from Simon Says Stamp, Tiny Words Birthday, and it says, may your day be as wonderful as you, which I think is super sweet. I prepped it, stamped it, sprinkled on the embossing powder, and then heated that. And then this one is from the Stronger Together, and it says, "Though we're far apart, you are always in my heart," which I think is really kind of sweet. And it is kind of the reversed sentiment, so the surrounding area is embossed and the sentiment itself is going to be left white because you'll see the cardstock through that. So I can heat that, and then that is complete. Now let's get our cards together. I decided for a green background for the foiled butterflies. I am using the same colors on all of the cards. It's just this one's going to be a little bit different because it doesn't have the stripes. Then I'm going to adhere my sentiment to the Party Pink cardstock, trim that out, and then I can add that to the banana cardstock. So the sentiment will be stacked with pink and yellow, which I think is a fun color combination. So I trimmed that out with a paper trimmer, but I still needed to use my scissors just a little bit. And then again, I can adhere this to the banana cardstock and trim it out exactly the same. So that card will have all three of those fun spring colors together. And I kept getting adhesive on the front because sometimes that adhesive kind of sticks and then kind of would fling out onto the front weirdly on the small stuff. So I just used my eraser to remove that. So I die cut one larger from the ovals, excuse me, and that gave me a nice little mat so you can see how close in size those ovals are. I added foam tape behind the sentiment. I'm adding some of these two of these foiled butterflies on the back of that. I'm going to put that aside to dry. I do want to adhere it to a white A2 size card base, but I don't want to mess with it because it's going to take a second for the butterflies to dry. Adding some foam tape behind that because you know I want some dimension. So that nice oval is going to pop up in the center there. I really love these oval dies, you guys. I just can imagine all the things that you can do with them, and they are so, so pretty. I am bending up the wings of the butterflies just to give them a little more of a three-dimensional look instead of just completely flat. Okay, so foam tape behind this, that back panel I did run through the die cut machine with the embossing folder, so it has a little more interest on the back. And then this card is going to have 5 butterflies. I kind of laid this stuff out beforehand, but I opted to change one of these butterflies, so I had to think about it for a second. But I really like this card design. I like how simple it is. And what I'm loving about all of these cards is there is still a ton of white space, which for some reason right now I am really, really into. So I'm deciding on the placement for my butterflies. This is an odd number, which I really like. The other one that we did had 2 butterflies, but then you had the sentiment, so it acted as if there was 3 components going on. And then this one is going to have 3 butterflies as well. And these will be placed on the strips, or the little strips of paper. And I have decided to not add any sequins, which I thought was weird, but I did not feel like any of these cards needed it. But look at the fun 3D dimension on those paper strips. The colors are fun. It's so springy. Then we have the beautiful foiled butterflies on there. And then look at this background. It is foiled and embossed, which I really, really love. So I hope you guys love these cards. I hope that you love these projects. Thank you so very much for stopping by and watching. Have a really wonderful day and have a really awesome weekend. And I'll be back soon with another video. Bye.